No, our Chels is really going through the wars at the moment. First of all, Ian Beale, Adam Woodyard, hit her son Jordan Isaiah Hagen Brown with his car, the accident coming after she just bitten his head off, amplifying her guilt tenfold. As she watched over her boy in hospital, she leaned heavily on her mom, Denise Diane Parrish, who was hiding her own secret. She'd just been diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia AML, a fast-growing and aggressive type of blood cancer. Though she tried to delay treatment, reasoning that her daughter and grandson needed her, when the truth was revealed, she ultimately decided to fight the disease with all she had and admitted herself into hospital for the month-long procedure. Struggling without her mom, Chelsea was lifted by the return of Libby Fox, Belinda Owusu, who'll always be Squiggle to us, who she began to open up to about the emotional and financial challenges she was facing in the aftermath of Jordan's accident. She also let slip that the grandma of Jordan's serial killer dad, Gray Atkins, Toby Alexander Smith, had been attempting to send money for a while, but that she'd always rejected it. Libby wasn't having that, though. Why not accept the support that Sheila was so readily offering? It's not as though she's a serial killer too, is it? Libby reached out to her, causing some friction between the sisters, but Chelsea eventually accepted that Libby was doing what she thought was best for the family, and agreed to meet her, which was incredibly awkward at first. Sheila waxed lyrical about her estrangement from Gray, and how his habit of murdering people effectively ended her law career. Because people don't want to take legal advice from the grandma of a serial killer, unfortunately. Sheila presented as a great-grandmother who desperately wanted to support her great-grandchildren, the one who accepted that her grandson's actions made that difficult, with her confirming that Karen Taylor Lorraine Stanley was keeping her other great-grandchildren Mackenzie Isaac Lemonius and Mia Mahalia Malcolm far away from her. Though she initially dismissed Sheila when she became uncomfortable with her pressing to see Jordan, a later conversation with the boy himself and Auntie Kim Fox, Tamika Empson, implored her to reach out to Sheila again. They met at the tube station where Sheila gave her a check, and Chelsea returned the favor with a picture of Jordan, which the devious grandma then slid into her purse beside a picture of Gray. You know, the serial killer grandson she never sees? Yeah, that one. Chelsea eventually acquiesced, emotionally fraught in the aftermath of learning that none of the family were stem cell matches for Denise. Turning to Sheila, she found the insidious grandma ready to comfort her and, in return, allowed her to meet Jordan. She attempted to do her due diligence, though. She reached out to Karen but missed her return call, and the message that Sheila is an epic wrong-un, to whom Gray could do no wrong. Go. Next week, Chelsea, Libby and Jordan come across Sheila, but a sequence of events lead Chelsea to cut the visit short, leaving Sheila fearful that she won't see Jordan again. Undeterred, though, Sheila turns up the next day with the wheelchair Jordan needs and drops heavy hints that she'll continue to financially support him. Falling deeper and deeper in with the granny of "You're mad. Murdering X" probably isn't the key to all of Chelsea's problems, but we're sure it's going to make a fascinating watch. Walford is no stranger to drama, but Chelsea Fox finds herself facing a terrifying new challenge as a situation involving Gray Atkins' grandmother spirals dangerously out of control. Chelsea has spent years trying to rebuild her life after the nightmare that was her relationship with Gray. The manipulative killer left emotional scars that still linger, and although she has worked hard to move forward, the past has a habit of returning when she least expects it. It all begins when Chelsea receives an unexpected phone call. The caller introduces herself as a relative connected to Gray's family and urgently asks to meet. Reluctant but curious, Chelsea agrees, hoping the encounter might finally provide some closure. What she doesn't anticipate is the arrival of Gray's elderly grandmother, a woman carrying decades of family secrets. At first, the meeting seems harmless. Gray's grandmother appears frail and confused, speaking fondly about her grandson and expressing concern about how he has been portrayed. Chelsea is deeply uncomfortable, but she remains polite, believing the elderly woman deserves respect despite everything Gray did. However, things quickly take a disturbing turn. Begins appearing around Walford more frequently. Residents notice her watching Chelsea from a distance. She turns up outside the cafe, lingers near the market, and even waits outside Chelsea's home. While some locals dismiss it as harmless concern from an elderly relative, Chelsea feels increasingly uneasy. The memories come flooding back. Every unexpected appearance reminds her of the fear and control she once experienced under Gray. She tries convincing herself that she's overreacting, but her instincts tell her something isn't right. Soon the grandmother starts asking difficult questions. She wants details about Gray's final days. She demands to know why everyone abandoned him. Most troubling of all, she refuses to believe the horrific crimes attributed to her grandson. Instead, she insists there is another side to the story. Chelsea becomes trapped in an impossible position. On one hand, she sympathizes with an elderly woman struggling to accept a painful truth. On the other, she cannot tolerate anyone attempting to rewrite the horrors Gray inflicted on so many lives. The tension escalates when the grandmother unexpectedly approaches Jordan. Witnessing the interaction from across the square, Chelsea rushes over in panic. Although the grandmother means no immediate harm, Chelsea's protective instincts kick in. Jordan is the most important person in her life, and she refuses to let anything connected to Gray threaten his future. The confrontation attracts attention from nearby residents. Voices are raised. Accusations fly. Chelsea demands that the grandmother stay away from her family, while the older woman insists she has every right to know her great-grandson. The emotional scene leaves the square divided. Some residents support Chelsea completely, understanding the trauma she continues to carry. Others feel sorry for the grandmother, believing she is simply searching for answers. Yet behind closed doors, the situation grows even more complicated. Chelsea begins receiving letters. The messages are unsettling rather than threatening. They contain old photographs of Gray, family memories, and handwritten notes urging Chelsea not to erase him from Jordan's life. Each envelope sends a chill down her spine. The campaign becomes relentless, making Chelsea feel as though Gray's shadow is creeping back into her world. She struggles to sleep, becoming increasingly anxious and withdrawn. Friends notice the change immediately. They encourage Chelsea to seek support, reminding her that she doesn't have to face this ordeal alone. But opening old wounds is easier said than done. Every conversation about Gray forces her to relive experiences she desperately tried to bury. As pressure mounts, Chelsea reaches breaking point. A dramatic showdown unfolds when she finally confronts Gray's grandmother in the middle of Albert Square. In front of stunned onlookers, Chelsea delivers a heartfelt speech about the devastation Gray caused. She speaks about fear. She speaks about loss. And she speaks about the courage it takes to survive after experiencing unimaginable trauma. For a moment, the grandmother appears shaken. The reality of Gray's actions begins to